The moon hangs like a sliver of bone in the velvet sky, casting long skeletal shadows across the courtyard. You can almost taste the age in the air, the dust of centuries clinging to the crumbling stone of this forgotten castle. I've tracked creatures of the night across continents, from the fog-shrouded streets of London to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt. My blades have tasted the black blood of countless fledglings, my will forged in the fires of 100 battles. But this is different. The locals spoke of him in hushed, terrified whispers. They called him the Old One, the Shadow of the Mountain. They said he was ancient when the stones of this castle were first laid, a relic of a time before man learned to write his own history. They said he didn't just drink blood. He drank life, he drank memories, he drank hope. Fools, I thought. Fear always exaggerates. Every monster has a weakness, a chink in its armor. I was about to prove it. The great oak doors groaned open under my touch, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence within. The main hall was a cavern of darkness, a place where light came to die. A single shaft of moonlight pierced the gloom, illuminating a throne carved from what looked like petrified wood. And on it, he sat. He wasn't the snarling beast I'd expected. There were no claws, no monstrous features. He was stillness personified, dressed in finery that had gone out of fashion 500 years ago. His face was a mask of pale aristocratic calm, but his eyes held the weight of millennia. They were ancient, patient, and filled with a profound, chilling amusement. He watched me as a man might watch a curious insect that had wandered into his home. "Another one," he said, his voice a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate in my very bones. It wasn't a question. So full of fire and conviction. You hunters are all the same. You believe your righteousness is a shield, your steel a talisman. You march into the dark, certain you carry the dawn in your pockets. I raised my silver crossbow, the bolt blessed and etched with holy sigils. My hand was steady, my aim true. Your reign of terror ends tonight, creature. He smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips. It didn't reach his eyes. Reign? My dear child, you mistake existence for ambition. I don't reign, I simply aim. I was here when the wolves howled over frozen plains, and I will be here when the last star in your sky gutters and dies. Your terror is merely the byproduct of your own fleeting, fragile mortality. He stood, not with a sudden burst of speed, but with a fluid, deliberate grace that was more terrifying than any lunge. He was tall, impossibly so, and the shadows seemed to cling to him, to stretch and warp as he moved. You bring silver, he mused, gesturing to my crossbow. It burns. You bring faith. It irritates. You bring a stake of ashwood. How quaintly traditional. I fired. The silver bolt flew true, a streak of light in the suffocating darkness. It should have hit him center mass, should have sent him reeling back in agony. Instead, a hand, pale and slender, plucked it from the air inches from his chest. He held it between his thumb and forefinger, examining it with detached curiosity. Intricate work, he commented, as if admiring a piece of jewelry. But you misunderstand the nature of power. Your weapons are effective against the rabble, the pathetic children of my bloodline who have forgotten the old ways. They are but echoes of what I am. With a faint, almost lazy flick of his fingers, the silver bolt turned to gray dust, drifting to the floor. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum against the silent symphony of his presence. This wasn't a fight. This was an execution. Every instinct, honed over a decade of hunting, screamed at me to run. But where could I run that he couldn't follow? He took a step towards me, and the world seemed to tilt. The shadows in the room deepened, coalescing, no longer just an absence of light, but a tangible, grasping force. They coiled around my ankles, cold and heavy as grave soil. I tried to pull free, but it was like being caught in thick living tar. You see, he continued, his voice now a soft whisper right beside my ear, though he hadn't seemed to cross the distance between us. You hunt what you fear, but you cannot comprehend what you should fear. You think you hunt a monster, a predator. You are wrong. You have stumbled into the domain of a god of the dark, a force of nature as inevitable as the tide, as patient as the erosion of mountains. His cold breath ghosted across my neck, and the scent of ancient earth and dried blood filled my senses. I swung my silvered blade in a desperate arc, a pathetic attempt at defiance. My arm felt sluggish, heavy, as if moving through water. He didn't even bother to dodge. The blade simply stopped, inches from his neck, held fast by an unseen force. The very air around him had become a shield, a wall of his indomitable will. Such passion, he sighed, a sound of genuine, almost melancholic pity. It's the sweetest part, the hope that curdles into terror, the certainty that shatters into despair. It gives the blood a unique flavor. His fingers, cold as marble, traced the line of my jaw. My body was paralyzed, a prisoner of his ancient power. All I could move were my eyes, and all they could see was the abyss reflected in his. I saw empires rise and fall in them, stars being born and dying. I saw the faces of 1,000 other hunters, their final moments of terror and realization mirrored in my own. I had come here to be a hero, a legend. I had believed myself the apex predator, the righteous hand in the darkness. But standing before him, I finally understood. I wasn't the hunter. I had never been the hunter. I was just the offering brought to the altar of an ancient and hungry god. His smile widened, and this time I saw the glint of his fangs. Don't be afraid, little hunter. This is not an end. It is a transfiguration. You will finally understand what it means to truly see in the dark. His head dipped, and the last thing I knew was a sharp, piercing pain, and the roar of 1,000 captured lifetimes flooding into my soul, drowning my own small, insignificant existence. The legend of the old one would not end tonight. A new, far more tragic chapter was just beginning. Thank you so much for joining me on this chilling tale. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more stories from the shadows. Let me know in the comments what kind of creature you'd like to see featured next. Stay safe and always be wary of what lurks in the ancient places of the world.